Today we are doing episode 2 of which brand is faster in GTA 5. We're going Ferrari versus Lamborghini today. We have a bunch of beautiful Lamborghinis sitting right over here, and we have a bunch of beautiful Ferraris sitting right over here. Comment down below which brand you guys think will win in the end. First, let's see who's going up against each other. We have the Turismo versus the Zentorno. Then we have the Turismo Classic versus the Infernus Classic. After that, we have the Cheetah Classic versus the Torero. After that, we have the Furia versus the Tempesta. And then we have the Italia RSX versus the Tezeract. We also have the GT500 versus the Monroe. Then we have the X80 Proto versus the Zorruso. And finally, we have the Visione versus the Reaper. All of the cars are lined up on this quarter-mile drag strip, so with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and let's get into it. First off, let's go over the stats of our first two contenders. We have the Zentorno. It's based off a Sesto Elemento, Lamborghini Veneno, and an Aventador. It has a 6.5-liter V12 engine, pushing 759 horsepower and 690 pound-feet of torque. It's all-wheel drive, weighs 1,500 kilograms, and has a 122 mile/hour top speed. Going up against the Turismo, based off of a LaFerrari, it weighs 1,300 kilograms, it's rear-wheel drive, it has 121 mile/hour top speed, 6.3-liter V12 engine, 789 horsepower, and 516 pound-feet of torque. The Zentorno won by just under a second, but it's still a W, which makes the scores 1-0 for Lamborghini. Next up, we have the Turismo Classic, based off a Ferrari F40 with a twin-turbo V8, producing 471 horsepower and 426 pound-feet of torque. It weighs in at 1,100 kilograms, it's rear-wheel drive, and has 120 mile/hour top speed. Going up against the Infernus Classic, based off of a Lamborghini Diablo, it has a 5.7-liter V12 engine producing 655 horsepower and 507 pound-feet of torque. It has a top speed of 118 miles/hour, it's rear-wheel drive, and weighs 1,400 kilograms. That was a crazy race. The Turismo Classic beat out the Infernus Classic by 0.2 milliseconds. That's actually pretty insane, which means the scores are all tied up now at 1. Next up to the line, we have the Cheetah Classic, based off of a Ferrari Testarossa. It has a 4.9-liter V12 engine, producing 385 horsepower and 361 pound-feet of torque. It weighs 1,500 kilograms, rear-wheel drive, and has 120 mile/hour top speed. Going up against the Torero, based off of a Lamborghini Countach, it has a V12 LP500 engine, producing 440 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque, weighing in at 1,400 kilos. It's rear-wheel drive and has a top speed of 116 miles/hour. Well, there you go, the Countach beat it by just under a second. I honestly expected the Cheetah Classic to win, but I guess the horsepower and torque play a part even in GTA 5. That makes the scores 2-1 for Lamborghini. Next up to the line, we got some more modern cars, the Furia. It's mixed of a bunch of Ferraris. It has a 3.9-liter V8 engine. It has a 122 mile/hour top speed. It's all-wheel drive, 1,900 kilos, produces 711 horsepower and 567 pound-feet of torque. Going up against the Tempesta, it's based off of a Huracan in real life. It has a 121 mile/hour top speed. It's all-wheel drive. It weighs 1,400 kilograms, has a 5.2-liter V10 engine, producing 630 horsepower and 442 pound-feet of torque. I know that might have looked like a tie, so here's a freeze frame showing you the Ferrari beat it out by 0.3 milliseconds, which is pretty crazy, which makes the scores tied up again at 2. Next up to the line, we have the Italia RSX, based off of a Ferrari SF90 Stradale. It weighs 1,600 kilograms, it's all-wheel drive, has a 135 mile per hour top speed, producing 769 horsepower and 590 pound-feet of torque, and it has a 4-liter twin-turbo engine. Going up against the Tezeract, based off of the Tezero Millennium in real life, it has a 125 mile per hour top speed, it's all-wheel drive, it weighs 1,800 kilos, it has 838 horsepower. I have no idea what the torque is, and it does not have an engine. This is going to be a very interesting race. Well, the RSX beat it out by 1 second. I'm not really surprised. It is one of the fastest cars in GTA 5, but I expected the Tezeract to do a little bit better. The reason I did a burnout at the start there is because that gives a little bit of a boost to electric cars. But that makes the scores now 3-2 for Ferrari. Next up to the line, we have the GT500, based off of a Ferrari 250 GT SWB. It has 110 mile per hour top speed. It weighs 800 kilograms. It's rear-wheel drive. It has a 3-liter V12 engine, producing 284 horsepower and 202 pound-feet of torque. Going up against the Monroe, based off of a Lamborghini Miura, it has 122 mile per hour top speed, it weighs 1,200 kilograms, it's rear-wheel drive, it has a V12 engine producing 345 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. That was also a very close race, but the Lambo just beat it out by 0.6 milliseconds, which ties up the scores again. I did not expect it to be this close. Next up to the line, we have the X80 Proto. It's based off of a Ferrari F80 in real life. It only weighs 900 kilograms. It's all-wheel drive. It has a 127 mile per hour top speed, 900 horsepower. I have no idea what the torque is, but it has a V12 engine as well. Going up against the Zorruso, it's based off of an Italy design Zentorno. I know it's not a Lamborghini, but in-game it's Pegassi, so we're putting it in. It weighs 1,300 kilograms. It's rear-wheel drive. It has 124 mile per hour top speed. It has a 5.2 liter V10 engine producing 602 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque. The X80 is also a really fast car. It almost beat the Zorruso by 1 second, which now makes the scores 4-3 for Ferrari. This is Lamborghini's last chance for a comeback. Next up to the line, we have the Visione. It's based off of a Ferrari X80 concept car. I have no idea if I pronounced that right. It has a 125 mile per hour top speed. It weighs 1,400 kilograms. It's rear-wheel drive, and I could not find any info on the engine, torque, or horsepower on this vehicle because I don't think anybody knows it, to be honest. Going up against the Reaper, it's based off of a Lamborghini Sesto Elemento, a Huracan, and a Centenario, and a Lykan Hypersport. It has a 3.7 liter twin-turbo flat-six engine producing 780 horsepower and 708 pound-feet of torque. It has a top speed of 121 miles per hour. It weighs 1,300 kilograms. It's rear-wheel drive. This is Lamborghini's last chance. I promise you I'm not joking. The difference of time was 0.01 milliseconds. That is insane. I made sure the launches were identical down to 1 millisecond. They launched at the exact same time, and the Vision literally beat it out by 1 millisecond. That's insane. It now makes the scores 5-3 for Ferrari. I'm not gonna lie though, in GTA 5, we have really fast Ferraris. Like, I didn't even put the Italy GTO in because I could not find another Lamborghini that could match up with that speed, which is also why I didn't put the Toros in there because they just wouldn't have been a really good matchup. So in all honesty, Ferraris did beat out Lamborghinis, but it was a very close race. Anyways, that's pretty much going to wrap up the video. If you guys want to see another episode of this of BMWs versus Audis or another couple brands, comment them down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.